What's up, everybody? I am your head counselor, a mullet-wearing white guy that loves tank tops and tube socks. I think only white guys ever had mullets. I don't know.
Forgot about those short shorts, man.
And that is my co-counselor, a serial killer with a sex change that hates drugs and fornication. And welcome to Camp Grindhouse, where we have been bought out by Uncle John, who has turned things around and made us a respectable summer camp. And on this episode, we are covering a sequel that I couldn't wait to cover since last year, which I am now seriously regretting. We're doing Sleepaway Camp 2. So last year we covered Sleepaway Camp, which is a movie I really love. It is near and dear to my heart. But if you listen to that episode, you would know that I had never seen, or at least I don't remember, seeing any of the sequels. So I decided to hold off and watch them for the first time for the show. And I didn't like this movie.
Wow. Kind of surprised.
Yeah, so
Figured this would be one that you would like.
well, here's the thing. It is a decent camp slasher movie, but it is not a good sleepaway camp movie. It is way too different from the original. I feel like they used the name to basically cash grab and create this very different movie. And it just didn't hit like I thought it was going to.
Well, I tell you this, I enjoyed it.
Really.
I thought it was a fun movie. It's an awful movie. It's like so awful, but it's so perfectly late 80s, just cheap camp slasher.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
Like,
But it's just not a sleepaway camp movie.
the writing is so lazy. Some of the kills are so dumb.
The kills hurt.
Everything that you would get in a cheap ass fucking camp slasher, the complete like super obvious ripoffs from the best slasher movies, most successful slasher movies, like it wasn't even hidden.
Oh no, it's totally on purpose.
This should be called like Titaway Camp.
Yeah, it's just
boobies everywhere. It's just boobs and nipples everywhere. Sex, drugs,
like
lots of killing.
Like Angela is absolutely not the same at all.
Yeah,
They should have just done a separate movie and not tried to do the follow-up to Sleepaway Camp. Like another complaint I have is Sleepaway Camp used actual kids for the campers, and this one is so different. Like what you would see as the counselors in the first one are now the campers in the second one, and adults are the counselors now.
But
it's just different, man.
I tell you this, I was very much confused for a large chunk of the beginning of this movie on who was supposed to be counselors and who was supposed to be campers.
Yeah, because they're almost all the same age.
A room full of like 30-year-olds, and some of them are, I guess, campers, and some of them are counselors. But like you said in the original, they used actual like kids and teenagers to play the campers, and in this movie we got 30-year-olds playing teenagers, and we got maybe 2 kids.
Well, there are some underage people in this movie. There's a couple of scenes that hopefully I can remember to point out that are different because the actor was underage. So there are some younger people, but Sleepaway Camp used like 12-year-old kids, like actual children as the campers, which made it like more legit. I just think that it's just too different to be a sleepaway camp.
I think they seem like, the Friday the 13th weren't successful because of the kids at camp. Like most of those movies, almost all of them are just camp counselors before camp actually happens. Like you don't get successful camp slashers with kids. You do off of supposedly late teens that look like they're 30s doing drugs and having sex and getting killed. That's what was successful. This movie, you could tell that this was the late 80s. It's like 1988. They
Yeah.
had all these years of these franchises and what they thought went good and what they thought didn't. And one thing with the late 80s going into the 90s, it's when all the franchises threw like continuity in their writing out the window. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
get some of the weakest writings in all the major franchises around this time. I think we got Friday the 13th Part 7 in 88, but right, in which that movie has some plot holes, some writing
Yeah,
issues.
but also a fun movie.
Yeah, fun movie. Jason's fucking the best he will ever be in that movie as well. But then, right after this we had Manhattan, which has plot holes all over it. It's
Also a
not
super fun movie, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that's what a lot of the franchises did at this time. The continuity of the stories and I call it lazy writing emerged. They decided, "Who cares if that doesn't make sense? We just wanna kill people in different ways and show a lot of titties and 30-year-old teens doing drugs," and they
And
gave us plenty of that.
and mullets. A lot of big
Mu
mullets.
Yeah, oh, and, like, super, super cheesy 80s rock music. Lots
Yeah,
of that.
there's definitely its fair share in this movie.
Yeah, but with all that said, I mean, it's an awful movie, but a very, very, what I found entertaining. I honestly so I think that this movie was more entertaining than the first, but the first was a much better movie.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's definitely a lot of shit that happens in this. There's a lot of kills. I won't say there's a lot of great kills, but there is a high kill count. Unlike the original, which the original had a decent amount of kills in it, but things really picked up more in the back half of the movie. This movie kind of continuously kills people, I think, more than the original one did. But my biggest problem is the Angela character, which is literally the complete opposite from. They should just left that character out. I think we would have been fine with her just being in jail for cutting that one kid's head off on the beach.
Is it Felicia Rose?
Felissa Rose, yeah.
If they coulda got her
Well,
to
I'll
come
actually
in and
talk
do
about
this,
why she didn't do this movie.
yeah, that was my biggest disappointment because I thought, does she come back for the third?
No.
Man, I thought that me and you talked about it, I thought that she came back.
No, and I will talk about the third, and I will talk about why she didn't want to be a part of it. I can tell you why she didn't do 2 or 3.
Hmm.
I got it directly from her, so.
Well, despite that disappointment, it was a fun movie.
Also, we got hit by a major ice storm this week, which has thrown us off a little bit. So if anything comes out a little late or we're slow to respond to any messages, the Patreon stuff, it's because we're trying to get back on track. We live in a place that never gets severe winter weather, so it has essentially shut everything down for close to a week. It's been a very crazy week, and we're trying to get caught back up with everything. So just a heads up, bear with us as we get everything back on track.
It's been fucking cold.
Yeah.
And frozen.
Yeah.
Everything's been fucking frozen.
Well, we have like major snow and ice storm, and our city doesn't have snow plows or anything. So it essentially kind of just shut everything down. And we go out in our driveway and slip and fall, which never happens. We deal with hurricanes here, not snowstorms. So yeah, that's been a fun thing to deal with. All right, so with that being said, are you ready to talk about Sleepaway Camp 2?
I am ready. And I kind of feel like we should have did Storm of the Century.
That would have taken a really long time.
Yes, it would have been a month-long episode.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date, and what's going on with the show. Talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die. Then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at GrindhouseSyndicate.Horror.Pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
And if you really love us and don't want us to send you home for being a bad camper, give us a review. Sleepaway Camp 2 Unhappy Campers, also known as Nightmare Vacation 2 in the UK, which I didn't know that, is a 1988 American slasher film written by Fritz Gordon and directed by Michael A. Simpson. I will tell you now, Fritz Gordon is not a real person, and we'll get to that in a second. It is the second installment in the Sleepaway Camp film series and stars Pamela Springsteen as Angela and Renee Estevez, which is Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen's sister. The film takes place 5 years after the events of the original and features serial killer Angela working as a counselor in murdering misbehaving teenagers at another summer camp. Sleepaway Camp 2 has elements of black comedy and references various horror franchises such as Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It was followed by a direct sequel, Sleepaway Camp 3 Teenage Wasteland, in 1989. It was produced by Jerry Silva and Michael A. Simpson of Double Helix Films. It had a budget of a whopping $465,000 and was released on August 26th of 1988. So Jerry Silva, who was a co-producer on the original, approached Double Helix Films about producing a follow-up to the film. Michael Hitchcock, who worked at Double Helix Films, was assigned to write not one, but 2 Sleepaway Camp films, which is this one and Teenage Wasteland. And he did so for reasons I could not find under the name Fitz Gordon. I don't know why he lied about his name. Yeah, could not find. Maybe he just got stuck writing them and didn't think they were that good.
Maybe he was embarrassed to tell his wife what he was working on.
Maybe.
It's like, she's going to see this movie and I can't possibly let her know. Like, I told her I was working with like John Carpenter.
Yeah, something big. So Michael A. Simpson, a filmmaker based in Atlanta, Georgia, was hired as director in the fall of 1987 and shot both Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 back-to-back in order to keep the production budgets under $1 million. So this is why she didn't appear in either one of these, is because they were shot together. Now, the biggest problem with both of these that people have is Clarissa Rose doesn't play Angela in this, or the third one. So, if you're wondering what happened, I will fill you in. Considering that she had played Angela in the original, she was approached by the producers to reprise her role. But at the time, she was busy with her enrollment in college. And this is what the official story is. Now, that was true. She was, in fact, in college at the time of filming, but that wasn't the only reason that she passed on the film. So, according to her, she read the script and felt that this was a very different movie and a very different character from the original in 1983. She also felt that the film had switched genres from horror to more of a comedy film, and that her character Angela, who was known to be a very timid and shy person, was now a very upbeat, wisecracking, social person, pretty much the opposite of her original character. Because of this dramatic change in the film's tone and lead character, she decided to pass on the opportunity and let them cast Pamela Springsteen, which worked out because director Michael A. Simpson wasn't really into the idea of casting her. So he wanted Springsteen, but the producer wanted Clarissa Rose. So once she passed, the director was pretty satisfied with that because he already had the person he wanted to hire anyway. Now, I do want to point out that Clarissa Rose wasn't upset about this, because she's the one who passed on the film, but she was also very supportive of Pamela Springsteen. And according to her, despite the differences between the 1 and 2, she really enjoys both of the sequels. She claims to be a fan of 2 and 3.
God, I wish they could have got her for it. Like, I feel like she could have pulled off the character. I know it's
she has the personality to definitely pull off the character. Like, have you ever met her or seen any interviews with her?
I'm saying, yeah.
She totally could have did it, but I like the fact that she was like, this is way different.
But did she say that before or after the movie came out and it didn't do so great?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is just an interview from a couple years ago. I don't know if she came out back then and said anything. I have no idea. So anyway, a YMCA youth camp in Waco, Georgia was used for the fictional Camp Rolling Hills, where filming began on September 20th and wrapped on October 9th of 1987. Just like Sleepaway Camp 2 was released theatrically on a very limited basis, where it hit theaters on August 26th of 1988 before being released on VHS just 2 months later. The film has been released twice on DVD in the US by Anchor Bay Entertainment. The first release was in 2002 with a single DVD, as well as in the Sleepaway Camp Survival Kit. Both of these releases are now currently out of print. Scream Factory, under license from MGM, released Sleepaway Camp 2 and its sequel, 3, Teenage Wasteland, for the first time on Blu-ray disc on June 9th of 2015. In the UK, the film was released under the title Nightmare Vacation 2, where there were over 2 minutes of scenes cut from the film in order for it to receive an 18 certificate by the BBFC. This movie doesn't have scenes that I would think would be too graphic to be released. It doesn't really have a lot of gore in it.
Yeah, it makes me think that, maybe even the copy we got here got cut up some. Because there is some good, there is a couple of scenes that has some good practical effects, and then other ones where we don't really get to see it all. So from covering past movies and knowing a lot of times they get cut up like that, they'll essentially make them cut everything and they'll end up showing practically nothing. I will say Nightmare Vacation is an awful fucking name for this movie. It has nothing to do with the vacation.
I feel like it would have Chevy Chase in it.
Yeah. In fact, they've already made that movie. It's a comedy.
Yeah. Well, apparently so is this.
Yeah. Come on. Come on, UK. Do better with the title.
Nightmare Vacation. It was eventually released for the first time completely uncut in the UK when it was made available as part of the Sleepaway Camp Trilogy DVD box set from Anchor Bay Entertainment on May 31st of 2004. It was also available in standard case packaging, but unfortunately, all of these that I just named are out of print.
All of them? So
apparently, yeah.
I think, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure Amazon has Scream Factory.
Yeah.
Through other Amazon sellers.
I think it was like the Scream Factory that had all 3 of them together. You may be able to buy a Scream Factory of them individually.
You can. You definitely can. I've got 2 of them in my cart right now.
Yeah, so I know that a lot of the box sets, though, are out of print now. Especially, I think the one that people really like to get is the Sleepaway Camp Survival Kit one or whatever. I think it's worth some money now.
Yeah, I was actually reading about the slipcases, and for those who don't know, because I didn't for a long time, and I collect physical media, that generally slipcases are the first print. That is the first run of print. You'll get a slipcase on it, and that's what makes the slipcases special. And if you have the 1, 2, and 3 Sleepaway Camp with the slipcase from Scream Factory, they're going online for like $200+.
Yeah, I bet. And this is one last bit of bad news for any fans of this film. The chances of getting an actual 4K restoration of this is kind of slim to none at this point because the original negative of the master copy has been lost.
I gotta say, this isn't a movie though that I think
Should get a 4K?
Yeah, like a 4K scan of this movie. There's not a lot of visuals and stuff that I think it's gonna enhance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're doing a lot of 4K stuff of stuff I wouldn't really think that they would. The one thing I'm waiting for is 4K scans of found footage movies because to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it's supposed to look that way. And if you 4K it and try to make it look better, like especially like the Paranormal Activity where it's like in the 80s and he's
Yeah.
filming on like an old, handheld camcorder, that shouldn't look that good. It's supposed to look like that. So I don't know if those have happened yet, but I have a feeling they're going to happen, which is going to not make sense.
Yeah, you can't take things like the Poughkeepsie tapes and stuff and put them in 4K because I feel like even if you did that, you wouldn't be able to do the found footage scenes 4K. It wouldn't make any sense. But they're doing a lot of these older movies, and I think certain movies that have really good cinematography, or even if their cinematography sucks, but they have awesome practical effects, it can benefit a lot from a 4K scan. This movie does not.
Well, a really good example of that is I got the 4K scan of Ticks. It looks it looks great.
Can't believe they 4K scanned that still.
I mean, I'm glad they did because I loved it. And that the scene where Panic gets ripped in half, it looks so much better. Like it's so much clearer.
Man, we still gotta watch. So I have the 4K scans, the OG My Bloody Valentine.
Yeah.
And there is some pretty cool shots in that movie that I can't wait to see in 4K.
All right, so ratings. Rotten Tom, 58%, which I thought it was going to be worse.
That's pretty good.
Well,
they gave House of a Thousand Corpses like a 23 or 28.
Yeah, I think it was a 28.
That is a much better movie.
It's funny because we've used that movie to judge Rotten Tomatoes, every other episode probably.
Cause they fucking teabagged
Yeah.
House of a Thousand
They did.
Corpses. Like I'm pretty sure Rob Zombie fucked Rotten Tom's wife before he was with Sherry. Maybe Sherry Moon was with Rotten Tom and he stole her.
Rotten Rita.
Sherry Moon is Rotten. It's really Rotten Tom Moon is Rotten Tom's full name. It's his daughter.
Well, it got a stunning 58%. IMDb gave it a 5.5 out of 10. Letterboxd a 2.8 out of 5. And this is surprising. For Google, 85% of Google users like this movie, which I feel like that's a little high.
Like I said, there's not a lot of like casual or non-horror fans
Looking this up.
going I'm going on Google and watching it for a review. Most of the people watching this are people who dig the cheap 80s camp slashers.
If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it streaming for free on Tubi and Pluto TV. All right, so you ready to start the plot of Sleepaway Camp 2? Finally.
So somewhat. I'm gonna warn you now. For like the first half of this movie, there was a lot of characters I just didn't get their names. I just couldn't.
Yeah.
IMDb. So essentially, when I looked up to try to find out who was who, probably 70% of this cast never played in anything else, or only played in like one or two things, and they didn't have a picture. Or
Well, a lot of them look way older, and it's hard to tell.
yeah, the ones that did actually have a career, now they look way older. The other ones either don't have pictures or their picture is shitty picture from this movie because it's the only thing they ever did. Definitely not a star-studded cast.
No, I've always wished, ever since I started doing this, I always wished that there was a website that you could go to and type in the movie, and it would give you the names of the characters and the pictures of them from the movie.
Yeah.
Because this happens a lot when we do old movies where we try to go and look at the cast, but, especially when they're like 55 years old now, but they were only like 18 in the movie, it's really hard to fucking tell who's who. I had to actually write down on a notepad kind of our main 10 characters because I had that problem too. A lot, it's kind of fucked up to say, but a lot of the white guys and white girls look kind of similar to me, and they're not on screen long enough for me to tell them apart sometimes. Like a lot of blonde hair white girls in this movie, and I'm like, I don't remember this person's name.
Yeah, like the main characters I did get just from hearing their names.
Yeah,
in
there's
the
about
movie,
5 of them.
but yeah, there's about 5 of them that are in the beginning of this movie that I have no idea what their names are. I have a list from IMDb that I could take a guess from, but yeah, you would think IMDb would offer something like that.
Yeah. All right, so we start off with a key ingredient that all good camp slashers must have, a scary story around a fire at night, which I realized when I started writing this episode, we just did this.
Yep. Yeah.
We literally just went through this with the movie before.
With an absolute opposite of a movie.
Yeah.
A really beautiful, awesome practical effect movie compared to the polar opposite.
Yep. We see head counselor TC sitting with a bunch of campers telling the story of a girl who finds her boyfriend dead. And after he finishes this up, we see a young teenage girl named Phoebe say that she knows a scary, true story. She then begins telling the group about another camp about 60 miles away named Camp Arawak, where a bunch of kids were hacked up. One girl was stabbed while taking a shower, and the owner got an arrow through the neck, which all this should sound pretty familiar. She then starts to tell about the young girl who got picked on who ended up being the killer, but before she could finish, she gets interrupted by a female counselor who walks up behind her, informing her that it is time to go. As she gets up to walk off, she rushes to the end of the story by saying that the girl wasn't really a girl at all. She was actually a young boy whose aunt had been dressing him this way since he was 4. They ended up finding him sitting on a beach naked, holding the head of a dead camper. She then finishes her story off with the total kill count being 30, and the camp was quickly closed down. Yeah. I don't remember there being 30 kills from the original, but I didn't go back and look.
Yeah, well, apparently we missed the best kills from the first one because
most of them
definitely wasn't 30. I assume they mean that she finished off the rest of the camp after the movie. And if you don't recall, one of my biggest gripes from the first one was how weak the fucking kills were.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't get to see almost any of them, and the ones we did were super weak. So I just hope in my mind, or I don't hope in my mind, there's a bunch of awesome kills at the end of the first one that I plan in there.
Yeah.
And also, spoiler alert for those who have not seen the first one, you just found out the ending. Sorry.
Oh yeah, the ending's the best part of that movie.
It is. She's got a wiener. She's got a wiener, and that is the one of the
and a
best.
Bush. Don't forget that bush.
A wiener and a bush.
Yeah, you remember when I met her? She did that pose from the
movie. She showed you her wiener.
No, nope. She did the cool pose though.
She did, and she did it fucking perfect.
Yeah. So she then walks off into the woods with this other counselor whose name is Angela. And yes, this would be the same Angela that killed all the people at Arawak. But this girl, nor anyone else at this camp, knows this. The campers then start talking about what happened to the killer after he was caught, with one saying he heard she was dead. When another guy named Sean interrupts him and informs everyone that it's all bullshit and that the killer is still alive. According to Sean, after the murders at Arawak, he was placed into a psych ward and given a sex change to finally become a woman, and just a few years ago was released back into society. One of the campers then asks how he knows this is true, and he tells them that his dad was one of the cops that helped arrest her. Sean, who is I don't know, what is he, like 17, 16 or 17?
32.
He is really upset that their parents' tax dollars paid for this sex change.
I thought that was hilarious. Politics, though the times change, the politics seem to always repeat themselves.
Yeah, I remember this coming up in the news when I was like in high school or early adult, where people were complaining about tax dollars paying for stuff like that. And I was like, damn, this shit was going on even back then. So this has been a thing for quite some time that people have been pretty upset about.
I thought with the way things have went in the last 10 years that this was more of a nowadays problem.
Yeah.
Like prisons and places like that. People wouldn't have sex changes.
We dealt with it in the Army. It was a thing in the Army too.
Yeah, apparently this existed in the 80s.
Yeah.
Just on a much smaller level, I guess.
Well, I feel like it shows you how these things, they come back around, like they get popular, people complain about it, it dies down, and then eventually comes back.
Yeah, that's why I said times change, but it seems like the politics always repeat themselves.
So after this, we jump on over to Phoebe and Angela, who are walking through the woods, arguing about Phoebe sneaking off to join the boys around the fire. Phoebe argues that head counselor TC was there, but Angela interrupts her by calling her a slut. Because there's nothing more sluttier than telling scary stories around a fire.
Yeah, what a fucking prude. She's like, you should be sent home
for
telling a scary story around a fire.
You're supposed to save your scary stories for marriage. Didn't you know that?
Clearly, she keeps her scary story ring, abstinence ring.
Yeah. Which, I totally get what she's saying, because you got the head counselor there. Counselor who's in charge of all the counselors and all the campers, and he is allowing you to sit there and tell stories. It shouldn't be any big deal. But Angela then threatens to send Phoebe home, which she gets really upset over, saying screw you as she stomps off in anger, leaving an agitated Angela standing there debating on what she should do next. We then see Phoebe wandering around the woods by herself, lost. She says, shit, I can't see a damn thing. I don't know how, because these are the brightest goddamn woods I've ever seen.
Yeah, I put in here, like, maybe Angela's right. Maybe you shouldn't be a camp counselor. If you got lost in the camp that fast, like, I don't know how you managed to lose yourself.
I don't know how, like, these are really bright woods.
It's like a UFO hovering over, lighting these fucking woods up.
Yeah, they're bright.
It is definitely bright. I don't know how you managed to get lost.
After getting worried that she is going the wrong way, she starts yelling for Angela to help her. And after hearing no response, she then yells, "Where the hell are you?" When Angela then suddenly appears behind her and says, "Right here." And as Phoebe turns around, Angela hits her right in the side of the head with a tree branch, busting her head open and knocking her to the ground. We then cut to an unconscious Phoebe laid the fuck out as Angela leans down, pulls Phoebe's tongue out, and removes it with her knife. And this was some pretty terrible acting by the girl who played Phoebe, because I don't know if you've seen it, but her eyes are moving like, she's trying to, like, her eyelids are moving. Like she's flinching as she grabs her tongue and all that. It wasn't the greatest job by her.
Well, I will say,
playing knocked out.
On a practical effect sense, this was better than anything we got in the first one. Practical effect wise. The way that tongue snaps when it gets cut, I loved it. That was good. It's good old tongue cutting.
So, I don't know why she cut her tongue out, because she just killed her. Maybe because she was talking back, talking shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't you speak back to me in my prude ways.
You slut.
Fucking
telling stories
whore.
with boys.
Showing your tongue. You can't show your tongue to the boys.
So after our first kill of the movie, we then get a very 80s title card with some sweet electric guitar. So we then jump to the next morning where we see Angela walk to the door of the girls' cabin where she wakes everyone up with a loud whistle, informing them that it is time to get up and breakfast is in 30 minutes. So I got a couple things here. 1, that is a shitty way to wake anyone up. 2, why is that one girl sleeping in a room full of people with her tits out?
Because she always sleeps in the nude. She said
So?
That's what she said.
That's still weird.
Well, I enjoyed it.
She
I
doesn't
had
even
no
like.
complaints.
It's just odd, But she doesn't even cover him up. She's just got him out for all the other girls to be envious over, I guess. Just showing him off. So as the girls get up and begin to get ready, they notice that Phoebe is missing and all of her stuff is gone. They then start to wonder what happened to her when Angela walks out of her room and informs them that she sent her home last night because she claims she found Phoebe doing stuff with the boys that she had no business doing. Telling stories.
Showing that tongue.
So after some giggling and more boobs, we then head on over to Angela talking to the camp's owner, Uncle John, where she explains why she sent Phoebe home last night. After saying that he understands her decision, he then asks her what her parents had to say about it, and Angela lies and says that they didn't know what to say after hearing that their daughter tried to seduce every boy at camp. That is a leap. That is quite a leap.
Those scary stories, man. You know that's a no-no. The church wouldn't like that. Trying to get the boys excited.
Scared? So
you're trying to seduce them with scary stories, clearly.
So with this short conversation here with Uncle John, we can see that Angela has him like completely fooled. She's got him thinking she's like this goody two-shoes that follows the rules, and she's looking out for the other campers and the camp itself, pretty much protecting them from all the influence of bad kids with their bad intentions. Little does he know, she beat Phoebe to death with a tree branch the previous night, but she has him totally fooled. That's just kind of the whole point of this scene.
I think that the biggest thing that this movie missed on, it could have made it so much better. If you were going to get a different actress to play the lead role here, they should have done it where we don't know which one is Angela. Could have changed the name, like she's going.
Yeah, I could see that.
And the whole movie is just like the first, where we're trying to figure out which one of these camp counselors is killing people. And it could have been revealed at the end that one of the camp counselors was essentially...
Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been a much better way to go about it. Because the first one, unless you're already really familiar with it, but I mean, they do a lot of things, like they use like the man hands, like the boy hands to do like all the killing. So you have no idea that it's going to be Angela, this little quiet girl. And then they even do like, they open that door and it's at nighttime in the cabin and it looks like her cousin. It's not her brother. I'm pretty sure it's her cousin. It looks like him that's doing the killing. But yeah, I mean, I agree. They should have went that route.
And they show the reactions of the people who she's killing, which kind of you try to piece that together. And that's one thing they took from the original Friday the 13th is you can kind of see the reaction that, Pamela Voorhees, when she's killing people, you get the idea that this isn't this like grimacing presence. They put a lot of thought into that in the first one, and I thought that this would have been way more Sleepaway Camp, and they missed a huge opportunity to make a actual sequel to Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah. So while at breakfast, we get a bit of an introduction to our main campers here, which we said like earlier are much older than the previous film. First, we have Allie, who is definitely your troublemaker. Then Molly, who is our good girl. Sean, who we already met at the campfire. Remember, his dad is the cop. Then Jody and Brooke Choate, who are our party stoner girls. And Demi, Judd, and Anthony, who are your basic young American teenagers. AKA, they don't really have any like identifying personality that we could really tie to them. They're just kind of side characters.
On tit patrol.
So we then see the camp owner, Uncle John, step up to a microphone and introduce Angela as Counselor of the Week, as he invites her up on the small stage. I don't know how this works because there's only like 3 counselors. So they just kind of rotate through Counselor of the Week every couple weeks.
I don't know.
Don't know.
At this point in the movie, I was like, okay, well, there obviously the kids aren't in here. This is all the camp counselors. Why do they have 30 fucking camp counselors for this camp? I was so confused because they're all like the same fucking age.
Yeah.
Except a handful. I think like 2 of the boys or 3 of the boys are clearly
Younger,
like
yeah.
teenagers.
So she gets up there and she talks about her days as a camper and how Camp Rolling Hills is the best. She then invites Allie and Molly up to the stage to sing the morning song with her as she plays guitar. And I love how Allie, who was just talking all this shit about her, she goes up there with this smile and she acts all cool to Angela, totally acting like she doesn't fucking hate her. So after breakfast, everyone exits the cafeteria, and on her way out, TC stops Angela to congratulate her on her award and invite her down to the pool. I don't know how this guy did not win Counselor of the Week just based off of his badass mullet alone.
It's like, God damn it, Angela. It's fucking 1988 and had this sweet ass mullet. Why do you not want to fuck me?
He's like, my neck never gets cold.
He's like, what about he tells her, like, well, you could work on your tan. That's not a good pickup line.
No. Angela quickly turns down his pool invitation by saying she isn't a good swimmer, which is a really cool callback to the previous movie because remember, she gets thrown in the lake by those 2 girls and she almost drowns. So I did like that. But after this, TC gets to the real point of why he stopped Angela. He wants to talk about what happened to Phoebe. Angela blows this off though, telling him sure they will talk about it when she calls him later as she quickly takes off walking into the woods, leaving TC standing there confused because they don't have phones at camp. So, which when she first said that, I was like, you guys have phones in each cabin? It's kind of odd. So we then jump to Angela, who is walking through the woods, where she stumbles upon the Schote sisters sitting by a tree, drinking alcohol and smoking a joint. With one of them sings, "Oh, I'm a happy camper, I love to drink and fuck, and if you pay me money on my titties, you can suck." That's got to be one of the top songs of 1988.
And that should have took the #1 spot.
#1 Billboard tune right there. So as they hit the joint singing and laughing, we see Angela hiding behind a tree, watching this with a very unhappy look on her face. The screen then fades to black and we jump to the next morning. We then see a very pissed off Angela walking quickly through the camp where she runs into TC and asks if he had seen the Schote sisters. He says no, and come to think of it, they weren't at breakfast, and neither was another camper named Ralph, who I couldn't pick out of a lineup. I don't remember what Ralph looks like. Before he can say anything else, though, Angela storms off towards the woods. After looking around for a bit, she finds the 3 of them in the woods with Brooke passed out drunk and Jody and Ralph making out on a sleeping bag. Angela then tells Ralph to kick rocks, to which he takes off running back towards the camp as she stares down at Jody menacingly. Jody pretty quickly passes out from all the alcohol when she is then suddenly awoken by Angela pouring the bottle of liquor on her face. She then sobers up real quick, and as she sits up, she comes face to face with the burnt skeleton of her now dead sister. So the reason that they don't show the sister being killed is because the actress who played the sister was a minor. And I don't know if it's still the same or what the rules are, but back then, a minor could not be in a scene where they were supposedly drinking alcohol and stuff. I feel like that's got to be different now because they would just use fake alcohol. But that's why when they're going to kill this other sister, the other sister's already dead. Like, she's not even on set. They had to do the fake skeleton because she could not be on set at all for this scene. So the camera then cuts back to a wider shot where we see Jody sitting on a makeshift fire pit grill made from cinder blocks, and she's got her hands tied behind her back. Angela then tells her that she not only screwed up her life, but she also screwed up her sister's life, as she pours a large can of gas into the pit. She then pulls out a pack of matches and tells her to just say no to drugs as she tosses a lit match into the pit, setting Jody on fire. We then see Angela put on her patrol cap as she happily watches the girl burn to death with a smile on her face.
And there's not a whole lot of like awesome cinematography in this movie, but this
No.
is one of my favorite shots is through the fire, like the super like wholesome smile that Angela has as she's watching this girl scream on fire. Like I thought the way they shot that was a slick way of not having to show the girl on fire, just show her face through the flames. Thought it was super creepy. This gives you an idea early on how like really fucking crazy this bitch is.
Yeah, I will say that Pamela Springsteen, she does a good job in front of the camera. Like, she plays this character very well. She seems very natural and comfortable in front of the camera, and it's really surprising that she did not continue acting. I believe she's a photographer maybe now. She did this, and then she did the third one because they were shot together. And then I want to say she did like, maybe like a guest appearance on a TV show and maybe like a music video or two, and then she was done. She didn't do anything else.
It was those pictures she confiscated. Those titty pictures
Maybe.
she confiscated. It inspired her
To be a photographer.
Yeah. Also, party hats at 2:00. You skipped over that part. Best line in the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
Allie's wet t-shirt jumping out of that pool was a gift from God to this movie. And the fucking line, party hats at 2:00. Fantastic.
Yeah. It's really it's almost unbelievable to me that she does this to get Sean's attention, and he looks back and sees it and totally like, doesn't pay her any money, just totally ignores her. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but any 17-year-old boy just about is going to be locked onto that shit like a target. Whether you like the girl or not, like, you just can't help it. Like, hormones are raging, and there's not much you can do about it. You kind of not so much in control of your eyeballs at that point.
I bet you they shot this scene like 17 times.
There's a lot of extra footage
Like,
of
listen, man, we're telling you, you gotta look away. Your character doesn't pay attention.
So next we head on over to the cabin where it's lights out in the girls' room. Angela then informs everyone she's going to a counselor's meeting. And as she flips the lights off and closes the door, we hear Allie start to ask Molly about her relationship with Sean. But this quickly gets interrupted by the girls hearing something outside the cabin. And right as Demi goes to look out of the window, the boys bust in the front door for a panty raid, which I think is something that only existed in the 80s. I have only ever seen it in 80s movies. I've never heard of this happening in real life. And I also don't know why this would be such a fun thing to do.
It's a lot of lawsuits nowadays going on in this right here.
I've personally never been sitting around with my friends and being like, we should go steal a bunch of girls' underwear.
One dude literally runs out of there wearing a pair of the girl's panties on his fucking face.
Yeah.
That is...
Let's hope that was a pretty fresh pair of panties.
Well, I mean, he may not have hoped it was a fresh pair of panties.
Maybe.
He may put them on his face for a reason.
I wonder if panty raids were a real thing or if they were just like a movie thing. Like, I don't know, because I've never heard of anybody actually doing this.
I feel like it was a real thing for like frats, like at a frat party or something. Let's go to the sorority house and panty raid.
Yeah, that it could be, but I know that I remember just seeing it in a ton of 80s movies, and then it seemed like after the 80s it just was like not a thing anymore. So I don't know. But while we get some sweet 80s glam rock guitar, the boys run in and steal the girls' underwear. Some of the girls playfully try to fight back. But as this fun is taking place, we see Angela, the fun police, walk into the door with a very unpleased look on her face. She's going to be sending a lot of people home for this. She then interrupts by yelling that she's going to tell Uncle John about this and demands the boys get out right now. Sean tries to stand up to Angela, but pretty quickly gets shut down, with Angela sending him back to his cabin. Angela then tells the girls to get this place cleaned up and go back to bed, and after she heads into her room, we hear the girls start to discuss getting the boys back for the raid. I don't think that they really would want to steal a bunch of teenage boys' underwear. Like, there's probably a lot of gross stuff in there that you may not want to touch.
A lot of hormones going on here, man.
Yeah, there's a big difference between teenage boys' underwears and girls' underwear, I would assume. Teenage boys, some of them, I mean, you remember being in like middle school and high school in the gym locker room. There's a lot of things that boys have to learn about hygiene at that age. We then cut to the girls. I guess it'd be an underwear raid because, I don't think that boys had any special underwear slang back then. I think it was just always underwear. But yeah, they storm the boys' cabin, stealing their underwear, and head counselor TC handles this way differently than Angela does. He basically walks out of his room, he gets hit in the face with some underwear, and he says call him when it's over, and he goes back to bed, which is essentially probably how I would handle the situation.
Bro, this guy, I don't know what the character is. One of these guys is literally, there's like 3 girls holding him down, tickling him. And I'm like, yeah, he's really putting up a fight. Like this guy couldn't like get these 3 100-pound girls off of him.
They should have put a very obvious boner on him.
I was excuse the boner in my tiny little short shorts. Can you guys please stop doing this?
He's like, I never told you that when I get tickled, I get a boner. It's totally a natural thing. The girls then demand their underwear back, and when one of the boys says, no way, Mare then responds by saying, if you don't, you will be getting a lot of this, as she pulls her shirt up and exposes her breasts. Poor them.
Yeah. Oh God, no. Please don't show me your titties again.
And right as she does this, Angela walks in, and I'm like, does this bitch not sleep?
Angela is the titty police. Like anytime there is breast being shown, Angela's like, it's like she has like a form of gaydar. She has titdar.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just fun.
I can sense some fun and some titties being shown.
Yeah, it's like she just wakes up in the middle of the night and it's like, somebody's having fun. Somebody's showing boobs. I must go stop this. She's like the RoboCop for fun.
She's like Jason when premarital sex happens, except that it's just when breasts are shown.
Yeah,
somebody's got to die when boobs are shown.
Yeah. So next we see Angela with Mare in the car, and Angela is telling her that despite what she did, she's willing to give her another chance if she just says she's sorry. Mare says fuck that, she would rather die first. Angela then says okay and begins digging for something in the back seat. Mare asks her what is she looking for and is it a gun in a very sarcastic tone. When Angela then says no, it's a drill, as she pulls out a drill with a big ass bit attached to it and begins to murder Mare with it, which is a pretty weak kill, I thought. All we really see is blood splattering on Angela. We don't get to see anything cool.
Not to mention a super weak drill. Like, I don't know if that's the best cordless drills they had back then, but
Maybe.
That definitely would not have killed somebody. But rest in peace, Mare's boobies. It's another sad loss for Sleepaway Camp.
So I don't think they had any of that in the first one. It's all the campers were 12.
No, they were kids.
So the next morning, we see the campers talking about the big camping trip in the woods tonight. We also see that Sean and Marley, he's discovered he's bi and he's met another camper named Marley. Sean and Molly have sparked up. That would have been a change for the 80s.
Honestly, you said the name and it didn't even there was so many names that I didn't get. I was rolling with it.
Yeah, you got to see the uncut version where Sean can't decide if he's into men or women.
You know, there's always some surprising dick shots in these sleepaway camps.
There was a very surprising one in the original one. So we see that Sean and Molly have sparked up somewhat of a romance. TC then stands, just pictured Bob Marley for some reason.
It's a Buffalo Soldier in the tits of America.
So TC stands up and gets everyone's attention in order to read off the list of things that are missing, which include a saw, 50 feet of rope, a drill, and his car battery, which are all things that seem a little suspicious.
And Mars boobs.
And Mar. After breakfast, Molly follows Angela up to an abandoned cabin where Angela just likes to hang out for some reason. Molly talks to her about Sean and how about Sean's decision of what he's gonna do. But yeah, about how Allie also has a crush on him, and she's worried that because Allie fucks, Sean may pick her, which realistically is probably true.
Too bad for her. Sean and Marley are doing some wiener to wiener stuff.
To which Angela says not to worry about. Allie probably has STDs and Sean is a smart guy. Now, the reason this scene's kind of important is because this shows that Angela actually likes Molly, unlike pretty much anybody else.
Well, they try to do this thing where they plant the line in there that she supposedly only killed the bad people, which in the first one, that wasn't the case. She killed everybody, but they tried to make that like a thing of this movie. Like Molly's the only good one, so she wants to let her live. But she breaks those morals in this movie too.
Yeah, she kind of molds the story to fit her morals. She, like, you know, the two people that she's killed so far.
A politician.
Yeah. The two people she's killed so far, neither one of them did either thing that she, you know, claims they did.
Well, the one girl showed tongue. You know you can't show tongue.
Bare tongue at that, too.
Bare tongue. Goddamn budding taste buds sticking out.
Yeah, we know what you do with tongues. Also, Angela informs Molly that she's still a virgin and proud of it.
Keep your morals strong and you will never go wrong. The prudest line in horror cinema history.
After that touching moment, we then jump to an art class where we see Judd and Anthony making some crafts to use to scare Angela tonight. Judd is making a Jason mask and Anthony is making a Freddy glove. Meanwhile, Angela catches two younger campers sitting in a cabin looking through Polaroid pictures they secretly took of all the girls undressing. Angela takes the photos away, and as she begins to go through them, she finds a very, very slightly nude picture of her, which pisses her off. This picture does not show anything bad in it at all.
What's funny is all those other girls were clearly posing for these pictures.
Yeah.
Like
I noticed that because they make it like where the kids are like, you know, sneaking in the windows and taking the pictures. And I'm like, that's not what these pictures are.
No, these girls were totally posing for these pictures.
Which is weird because
And the directors were like, this is another great chance for us to get more boobs in this movie. So instead of just talking about the pictures, we're going to show like 4 different sets of boobs.
It's also weird
slasher.
Because these little boys are like 11.
Oh, this is totally something like I don't think they're 11. I'd probably say they're more like 13. They seem 11 next to 30-year-olds who are also supposed to be teenagers. But yeah, this is totally something like a 13-year-old boy and his friend would do.
No, that seems normal. It's the girls posing for the pictures, which is odd.
Yeah, I agree with that. But they're supposed to be like what, like 17?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still odd, but. So she takes these to TC, demanding the boys be sent home. TC says that Uncle John will never allow it because he also takes pictures of girls.
And they were actually posing for Uncle John, and the boys stole the pictures from him. Clearly,
he will never allow it because these are actually Uncle John's pictures. And I will be giving them back to him after I hold on to them for a night. Oh, man. That would have been a much better part of the story. But yeah, he'll never allow it because those two have been coming here for years. Angela then gets upset and goes to stop. I can't stop. I can't stop thinking about that now.
They've been sneaking tit pics for me for years.
Yeah, why do you think Uncle John has this place?
They've took the blame for my pictures that were found 3 years in a row now.
Man, so Angela goes to stomp off when TC stops her and informs her to be on the lookout tonight because some of the campers plan to scare her. So we fast forward to later that night where we see the campers camping out in the woods. They got the tent set up, they got a fire built and a boom box because in the 80s you had to have a boom box. And we also find out that Angela isn't there because she conveniently forgot her pillow. And what is on Allie's mind during this camping trip, you may ask? Where are the boys camping at? She wants to know where's the wiener.
Where's the closest wiener, to be exact? Any wiener will do.
Any. We then cut to Judd and Anthony, who are now dressed as Freddy and Jason, attempting to sneak around the woods looking for where the girls are set up. While sneaking around the woods, Anthony somehow manages to drop his glove. And while he attempts to look for it, Judd goes really far away to pee, which means he's going to die.
That is a common thing. We've covered it in probably 15 horror movies at least now that we've covered. For some reason, everybody wants to go like 50 yards away to take a piss, and you always die when that happens.
Yep. So Anthony does eventually find the glove. Unfortunately, though, it was on Angela's hand, and she uses it to cut his throat, killing him. Which is crazy. He put real blades on this glove in art class.
Yeah. Cues the longest, like, throat-slashing yelp in horror history. This guy yells for, like, a good 8 seconds.
And his buddy Judd would have heard him if he wasn't so far away pissing. He's like, I'm going to go back to camp and use the actual bathroom to piss. I'll be back 30 minutes. So Judd comes back still wearing his Wish.com Jason mask and his machete looking for Anthony, but he can't find him. We then see, in my opinion, one of the coolest parts of this movie as Angela walks up behind him holding a chainsaw, wearing Anthony's fucking face. This is awesome.
Fucking leather face, 100%. Even got the same kind of chainsaw, same color chainsaw at least, wearing his face. Thought this looked good.
What's crazy is Judd went so far away to pee that she had time to kill him and cut his face off and make a mask of it. And I also just want to say the mask kind of reminded me of the Thanksgiving mask.
Well, so I thought if you look from when you first see the mask and you can't tell it's like his face cut off, it totally looks like Michael Myers from a distance.
Yeah.
Like they did a Michael Myers and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Freddy and Jason all in the span of like 2 minutes in the movie.
Now, Judd, because he's fucking stupid, thinks this is Anthony, which doesn't make any sense, but when she cranks the chainsaw, he thinks this is like Anthony playing a game. She immediately knocks his machete out of his hand and cuts a chunk out of his leg. He then tries to run, but he doesn't get far before his injured leg gets the best of him. He then lays on the ground screaming please no as Angela approaches him with the saw. She then stands over him saying once she starts a task, she always finishes it. And she lowers the saw down, killing him. And that is the end of our fake-ass Freddy and Jason. Angela then shows up to the girls' camp, still wearing Anthony's face, holding the chainsaw. At first, the girls think this is one of the boys trying to scare them, so they tackle her to the ground while laughing and giggling. But they're pretty surprised to find out it's Angela, and actually think it's kind of cool that she joined in on the fun, considering, she hates fun.
Nobody was concerned the fact that she was wearing this boy's face that they know. It's not like they thought it was just like, oh, that's a really good party store mask. Like, it's this bleeding flesh face of this boy that they know.
That they've been living with at camp for weeks. Yeah, it's mind-blowing. No one ever mentions that.
So stupid.
She then asked where Allie went, and the girls tell her that she went to the bathroom with cramps, to which Angela doesn't buy. And speaking of Allie, we cut to her getting hot and heavy in the bathroom with Rob. By the way, these two are terrible at sex.
God, I thought they were. I didn't know if he was trying to like abuse her at first, or if they were wrestling.
Well, they're like trying to fuck, but get their clothes off at the same time. But they're kind of just like falling all over the place, or like knocking everything over. And at one point, Rob is literally dragging Allie across the bathroom while she tries to get her pants off.
Yeah, I mean, it literally looks like they're wrestling, and then he's dragging her body to the stall, and I'm like, oh God.
It's weird.
Where did this get? What is Allie into?
You just see her limp legs just dragging across the floor. So while this is going on, we see Angela arrive at the bathrooms holding the chainsaw. Thankfully for them, the saw doesn't crank, causing Angela to throw it down as she then starts calling out for Allie. Allie quickly gets dressed and comes out, claiming she just had cramps, and they both head back to camp. So the next day, TC and Sean go looking for the now missing Judd and Anthony, while Allie confronts Molly about Sean. She's like, I know you're talking to Sean, and I know Marley's talking to Sean. She basically tells her that Sean is a shitty lay anyway, and they would be perfect for each other. She then informs Molly that she hates her and knows she's going to go and run and tell Angela. Later on, while Molly is crying about this conversation, Angela asks her what's wrong, and Molly tells her about Allie. And Angela's like, time to kill this bitch. I've gave her too many chances.
Damn, Molly, you literally went and fucking snitched her out immediately. Like, if somebody calls you out for being a snitch, like, I know you're gonna go immediately snitch, and you go immediately snitch. Like, is there not some self-reflection there?
It reminds me of the kid from, remember the show Recess? The kid that
Uh-huh.
always snitched.
Was it Ranslow?
Yeah, I think that, yeah, he would tell about everything.
Randall?
It was
I think
something
it's
like
Randall. What a little fucking bastard.
that. That's Molly.
It wasn't Ranslow, because Ranslow was one of the characters. I think it was Randall.
It was
He'd
something
always
with an
call,
R like that.
Like Miss Finch, Miss Finkel, whatever the fuck her name was.
I think it was Finch. I think you might have been right.
Little bastard.
So we then cut to Allie fucking some random camper out in the woods. He's got a name, but I couldn't tell which camper it was.
It's Marley.
Which she's a total bitch about also. So this scene, the actual scene with her like riding the dude with her boobs out, that was not the same actor that they showed, like, you know, they show him like when they're done, you know, and he's like, oh man, that was good or whatever. Okay, so that actor is also underage, could not be on set at all when she was naked riding the guy that she was riding was actually just an extra.
I bet you he lied to his friends in real life.
Well, he actually has come out and said like he really wished he could have been on set that day. Like even if he couldn't be the guy, he wished he could at least be there to see it. And they wouldn't let him on set at all, period, because he was like 17.
I also wish I was on set that day. You know, Allie she's a bitch, but she's got some bitchin' tits.
She's attractive. So we then cut to, already said that. And so afterwards, she goes back to their cabin where she finds a note with her name on it. She opens it up and it reads, Allie, abandoned cabin, 5 o'clock, Sean. And she's like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, even if it was Sean, I don't think he's gonna want to fuck you when you have some other dude's
I thought about that.
Wiener juices dripping down your leg.
Yeah, I mean, it was literally just moments ago. You had some other random camper.
Yeah, I would imagine, unless Sean is just not experienced at all, that he would be able to tell that somebody else was just up in
I was thinking about that, and I was like, I don't even know if I should say that. because he's gonna be like, "Damn, what's going on here?" Because it seems kind of like you're already in motion here. Like something's already happened.
This is definitely men come. This is not right.
Yeah.
Somebody has wrecked this shit.
Was it Uncle John? You remember in the first one, there was the guy who owned the camp was trying to hook up with the hot she wasn't even a counselor. What was she, a counselor? I think she was a camper.
No, she was a camper, and there was also the fucking creepy ass cook who we debated because we never get to see him die because he gets taken off.
Yeah.
So we do find out in this one that he does die. They mention it in the beginning, like even the cook got boiled and died. So that's finally answered. Thank God. The pedo cook did get cooked.
Yeah. So she finds this cabin in the woods, and at first it seems like nobody's there. After Allie gives up, believing this is just like a mean trick by Molly, she goes to walk off when suddenly Angela opens the door, revealing it to be her that left the note. And at first, Allie's like, "What the fuck is your problem?" And Angela's like, "You bitch." Allie goes to storm off, but Angela quickly stabs her in the back multiple times with a small knife. But she doesn't kill her yet. She then makes her get up and forces her into the cabin's outhouse. She then forces her into the toilet where Allie quickly becomes covered in shit, piss, and leeches. Now, this is an abandoned cabin, so I was thinking, is this like 10, 15-year-old shit and pee? Like, who has been using this?
I'm sure Angela took a giant shit in here before. She had this planned. Yeah, she literally got drowned in the outhouse shitter. And if that's not a shitty way to die, I don't know what is.
That's awful.
and she manages, like, if I'm in this hole of this outhouse shitter and somebody's trying to keep me in there, it would probably take God himself coming down. Jesus fucking crawls out of his fucking tomb and gets a whole ass army and all of Israel to hold me in this motherfucking outhouse. Like, I would do everything in my power. And she manages to get stuck in there by Angela poking her with the stick.
I would tell her, like, you might as well kill me with that knife and then stick my dead ass body in there, because that's what it's going to take to get me in there. Like, I'm not getting in there because I know once I get in there, there's no getting out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not dumb. Like, you're going to kill me either way. So I'm at least going to, try to fight back. I can't do that covered in shit in a hole.
It would take a fucking asteroid out of the sky landing directly on top of me and smashing me into the shitter to get me in here. There's no way. And then when she's inside and she's just like poking her with this stick, this like log.
I almost wonder if remember in Fear Street where they're like in the toilet, they're like stuck down there. Yeah. I wonder if it's a little bit of a callback to this.
Well, they're different. They're in like the cave.
Yeah, like I know it's slightly different, but it's still an outhouse toilet, and
they don't have
and they're down in it.
They're not getting poked by a fucking stick, drowning in shit.
So we then, where am I at here?
We're just so lost. I don't know. Somebody just literally got poked to death with a stick and drowned in a fucking outhouse. So that's where we're at here.
So Angela, using a large tree branch, forces Allie down into the water, where after a few moments she drowns, putting an end to Allie. I would have just took the stick from her. If somehow I was in there and she's trying to poke me with a branch, I'd just grab the branch and just take the branch.
Yeah, I gotta say the choreography in this movie is awful. Like especially towards the end, we'll get to them, but like any of the fight scenes or wrestling or hitting scenes or
they're
like
bad.
Forcing her in this fucking outhouse, it's all so bad.
So later on, we see Demi walk into the cabin and go to talk to Angela. And she tells her that the weirdest thing just happened. She then starts to tell her that she got bored and she decided to call Phoebe's house to talk to her. But her mom said that Phoebe was still at camp. So she then called Mare, whose little brother and dad both told her the same thing. She then informs the dad that Angela actually sent Mare home 3 days ago. This causes Angela to get up and walk to the other room, locking the door and removing a string from her guitar. Demi, who is still telling the story, is just standing in front of a mirror brushing her hair when she then says that she decided to call the Schote sisters' house. And before she gets a chance to finish what she was saying, Angela comes up behind her and strangles her with the guitar string, telling her that she talks too much.
She did talk to way too much. Like I love how she's
just telling a
literally-
story.
Well, no, but she's rambling a story. Like Angela literally goes through this cabin looking for something to kill her with. It reminded me of American Psycho.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on the couch and he's just like
Looking through different
picking
weapons.
his murder weapon. I don't know if you heard at one point she's talking about this phone call with I think the sister's mom, and the mom was like, I hope that little shit did run away. Like it's
No, I didn't
literally
catch
what
that.
she's saying, and I'm like, oh my god.
So Angela then attempts to get Demi's body out of the back window when suddenly one of the other girls arrives at the cabin. As this girl picks the lock, Angela hides behind a curtain holding a knife. The other girl then enters the room looking for whoever's in there, and when she turns the corner, she sees Demi's dead body hanging halfway out of the window. But before she can figure out what exactly is going on here, Angela jumps out and stabs her to death.
She broke her own rule.
She's just on a killing spree at this point now.
Yeah, she had this rule in place though, and the girl's like, what did I do wrong? And she freezes and she's like, you're gonna tell, and then stabs her. Like that's her exact line. You're gonna tell.
So a little later on, Molly, after finally getting to kiss Sean, arrives back at the cabin. When she walks in, she finds that all the beds are bare and everyone's stuff is gone. Angela then walks out of her room and tells Molly that they are the only two left because she had to send everybody home. Molly is confused by this, but Angela says that she had no other choice because they're all whores who love boys, sex, and drugs.
Showing their tongues and their tits.
Yeah.
Good God. Send them all home.
Posing for Uncle John and his camera. Then there's this weird dream sequence that was only put into the movie because the producers demanded it be at least 80 minutes. They were just barely short on time. So they use all of the same footage we've already seen and they put that blue like tone over it and made it weird and just to make up the extra like 2 minutes.
Definitely out of place.
It serves no purpose. So the next morning, we see Angela in a meeting with TC and Uncle John, where a very angry Uncle John's like, where's my goddamn pictures?
Like, what? Now I don't even have any more counselors to fucking take pictures of or campers.
But Uncle John fires Angela for sending home like half the camp without talking to him.
Send all my boobs away. What the fuck?
She tries to ask for another chance, but he says no, and TC jumps in, claiming that he spent all day looking for Judd and Anthony, and even called the police thinking something had happened to them. John then tells Angela he wants her stuff packed and out of the camp before lunchtime. So after this, a very upset Angela informs Molly that she has been fired and she will say goodbye later before she leaves. She then heads into the woods towards the abandoned cabin, leaving Molly in shock. Molly then goes to find Sean, asking for his help and cheering up Angela. He agrees and they both set out for the abandoned cabin. When they arrive, they find Angela just sitting by herself on the fire pit she killed the Schote sisters on. Sean stays back a little bit while Molly approaches her to talk. Angela immediately starts blaming getting fired on head counselor TC, saying that he reminded her of a boy she knew when she was younger. Molly asks her what she did about him, and Angela tells her that she drowned him. So, Molly didn't think that was weird.
Well, I think this is Angela starting to come apart.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
this is like she's just like nonchalantly like, yeah, I drowned him.
I also assume the boy she's talking about is the one she killed by flipping the kayak.
And the canoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, the super weak kill
Yeah.
that he didn't even fight back.
But there was that awesome scene where they find his body and the snake comes out of his face. That's awesome.
Yeah, his rotting, decomposing body that they find like a couple hours later in the morning. But they did put a snake in his face, which was probably one of the cooler practical effects. Well, I will say the coolest
the
practical
coolest.
effect of that entire movie.
So while they're having this talk, Sean then opens the door to the cabin, and when he walks inside, he immediately finds all the dead and decomposing bodies of the missing campers. He falls to the floor, puking at what he has just seen and probably smelled. Angela runs in and starts beating him with the branch when Molly runs in after her. When Molly sees what's inside, she tries to scream, but Angela grabs her, pushing her against the wall and putting her hand over her mouth, saying, "I don't want to hurt you." Meanwhile, back in camp, we see Rob telling TC about Sean and Martin. I won't did it again.
Sean and Marley.
Sean and Molly going to the abandoned cabin to talk to Angela.
What movie did you watch?
I don't know. TC is not happy to hear this and decides to go after them. It is time to activate the power of the mullet.
Bro, I think Angela trained with some like stick fighting monks. Like she knocks so many like grown ass men that are supposed to be teenagers, but they're like 30-year-old men out. And so many people with this stick.
The tree branch is her go-to weapon.
It is. Like, who needs a machete? Who needs knives on a glove or a butcher knife when you can have a stick?
And she's at camp, so she's surrounded by tree branches.
She's like that guy from The Walking Dead that they did the whole fucking like...
Oh, the guy with the bat?
No, the stick guy. Remember the guy who was like...
Oh, yeah.
What's his name? He didn't want to... He like decides that he doesn't want to do violence anymore, and he gets... They do a whole stupid episode of him being trained on like the stick warfare.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about like the guy with the bat because that he's like
known.
Negan. He's like known for that weapon, and like she's like known for her stick.
Yeah, but Negan like beats the fuck out of people.
So does she.
Just like, I mean, she does these like weak ass hits, and it like incapacitates people. It's like really... I'm done. It's like some fucking stick fighting monks.
It's
where, like
really dense stick.
You just barely hit them right here in this nerve, and boom, they're done.
So back at the cabin, we see Sean and Molly tied up and gagged while Angela attempts to make some food while being surrounded by decomposing bodies. I don't know how this makes her want to eat food, but whatever. While talking to these two about food, Angela gets interrupted by TC outside yelling for Molly and Sean. Angela then pours a liquid into a cup, hides, and waits for TC to enter the cabin. And as soon as he opens the door and walks inside, she throws this cup of liquid in his face, and we see it immediately begin to burn his skin. She then informs him that she's the one who stole his car battery and extracted the acid from it, and that's what he just got thrown in his face.
It's okay, TC. You got that fucking sweet-ass mullet.
You don't need skin on your face. You got a mullet.
Nobody will notice the fact that your whole face has been melted.
While Angela attempts to get them to eat a gross-ass can of peas, Sean finally puts two and two together, realizing that this is the same Angela that murdered all of those people at Camp Arawak years ago. He then calls her out about it, to which she doesn't deny, and claims that she isn't Angela Baker anymore. She is now Angela Johnson. She has been out for 4 years, and after years of therapy, electroshock treatments, medications, and surgery, she was deemed cured by doctors.
She got her Johnson cut off and then put it as a last name. Just noticed that.
That's funny.
Angela, no more Johnson.
Yeah. She then asks how he knows about her, and he tells her that his dad was the one that arrested her the night on the beach. And he was furious the night that they released her back into society. She then says, "Well, wait till he sees what happens to you." While he starts to try and break free of his restraints, Angela grabs a machete and chops off his head right in front of Molly, which was a very rough looking decapitation.
This is the biggest plot hole of the entire movie that bothers me the most, is that she claims that she got recommendations from doctors to become a camp counselor after murdering a whole camp of actual children.
Yeah, I feel like that didn't happen. Like, there's no doctor. That was like, I mean, even if she wanted to do this job and I was, a doctor of hers, I'd say, I don't think it's a good idea for you to go back to a summer camp after what happened the last time you were at a summer camp.
Yeah.
Like, you should stay away from all camps.
They're like, we think it would be a good part of your recovery to go back and be a camp counselor after you murdered 30 children. No part of this. Like, it's like they were writing and they're like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Oh, fuck it. Send it.
Yeah. Well, the guy had to write 2 movies back to back, and he didn't want to. They'd made him.
Telling you, this is why he didn't use his name.
Yeah.
He literally got done with this and was like, okay, we're changing my name in the credits.
Yeah.
I can't put my name on this.
So later on, Angela tries to get Molly to eat again. I don't know what her obsession is with trying to get them to eat this canned food. And she has obviously lost her mind. I mean, it's like a running theme for 20 minutes. Like, she's like dying to eat this fucking can of peas.
She's like a typical grandma. Like, she's just wants, like, always trying to feed you. But come on, Molly, you gotta eat.
But she has obviously lost her mind because she is talking to the dead bodies like they're still alive. And we also see her try to get Molly to watch TV. But when she looks over, we can see that Angela has broken out the screen of the TV and placed Sean's head in there.
I love the shot of all the fucking decomposing bodies and the burnt bodies and Sean's head. It is so very like Tales from the Crypt cheap effects.
I do love this part.
Yeah, I thought it was, it's not the most amazing practical effects. It's very Tales from the Crypt. Like, they did all these practical effects on a very low budget, and it just gave me that vibe, man.
So Molly then flips out, trying to hide her face in the side of her arm. Angela then tells her that she has to go and will be back later. But she is leaving TC and Sean to keep her company. So apparently Angela goes off and kills another unnamed camper and drags him back. She just like kills him for no reason. Yeah,
just Marley.
Maybe. She brings him back to the cabin, and while she's outside with the body, we see Molly finally get free from the ropes. As soon as Angela walks in, Marley starts hitting her. I don't know why I keep saying it. Molly starts hitting her with a branch, which was very weak. She's very weak hitting.
She's not trained in the art of stick killing like Angela, clearly.
But these weak-ass hits knock Angela to the floor and somehow knock her unconscious.
And instead of continuing, she knows that her stick training is not up to par. So she says, fuck it, I'll leave her alive.
So Molly then grabs Angela's knife and takes off running back towards the camp. And while back at the cabin, we see Angela wake up and run after her. Now, I don't know how the fuck this happens.
This is the other plot hole that drives me nuts.
But somehow Angela ends up in front of Molly.
Molly ran an entire circle. She literally has the worst sense of direction. She ran an entire fucking circle.
Yeah, but how would Angela know she was, like, Angela hides behind this tree and just waits for Molly to come her way? Like, how would she know that? But yeah, she attacks her from behind a tree.
Stick training, man. I don't know. But it happens so fast. It's like she's literally hauling ass as fast as she can away from this cabin back towards camp, and then boom. Fucking Angela's behind the tree.
Yeah. And of all the trees to hide behind, she hides behind the perfect one.
Oh, and it gets worse.
So they start fighting over the knife, which causes Angela to get her hand and leg cut, allowing Molly to escape again.
Which is this is a great example. Ray Charles' first attempt at choreography.
Another chase occurs with Angela yelling for Molly to stop and that she doesn't want to hurt her. And I'm sitting here thinking, Angela needs to be running towards the fucking border, not after Molly, because even if she's able to kill Molly, there's no way she's getting away with killing half the goddamn camp and not getting caught. So this next part also makes no fucking sense, but once again, even with her leg and stuff cut, Angela catches up to Molly.
It happens again. Twice. She pops out behind a fucking tree while Molly is running in the opposite direction and she somehow is hiding behind a tree where Molly's running.
I mean, it happens in like a 5-minute time span too.
Maybe Molly's got like severe vertigo and she thinks she's running straight, but she's actually
just running in figure 8.
Just running a big circle.
Yeah, so Molly is now standing on the edge of this drop off with nothing but rocks and trees below, which is weird because she's been there now twice. She knows the path between the camp and the cabin.
She doesn't know any path, no direction.
She
literally couldn't get to the fucking mailbox and back.
So Angela starts approaching Molly, who ends up slipping and falling backwards, hitting her head on the rocks below. And when Angela looks over, she sees Molly's dead body and she begins to cry. So later that night, back at camp, another female counselor goes to the cabin looking for Molly. But when she doesn't answer, the counselor walks around to the side where she finds those 2 young boys who like to take the naked pictures of the female campers peeking in through the window. This counselor gets mad at them and goes to pull one of them away from the window, but when she grabs him, she finds that they are both dead with their throats slit. She then runs to Uncle John's where she finds him dead at his desk, along with Rob, who I just thought she cut his hand off. You remember that? Maybe because he was jacking it with that hand, those pictures. Why'd she cut his hand off?
She cut the hand off or something.
There's no real reason to cut the hand off unless it was something weird.
I'm just like, she managed to get back to camp and kill the whole rest of the fucking camp before dusk.
She's really good.
The stick. She probably cut his hand off with a stick.
She just smacked it off with a stick really hard and it just broke cleanly off. But yeah, she finds Uncle John dead. She finds Rob, whose dead body's hanging from a rope in the corner. And then Angela jumps out and kills this counselor with a knife. We then jump back to the woods where we see that Molly isn't dead. She was just knocked out. So she then wakes up and she slowly starts to crawl down to the bottom. We then see Angela riding in a truck with a random woman who picked her up hitchhiking. They end up stopping at a railroad crossing while a train goes by. And this lady, she's definitely on more of the rough side of the tracks, I would say.
This is so random.
It is very random. I was so confused when we came to this part. So she's like
hitching a ride with some lady, and they wrote the lady as like this super hillbilly who says one of the greatest lines I've ever heard.
Was it no skin off my tits?
I've quit smoking so many times, I had to quit quitting, as she lights a cigarette.
She also is like, it's no skin off my tits. And I'm just like, wow. So she's cussing, she's talking about fucking, and even lights a cigarette. And you can tell Angela's starting to get annoyed. So Angela's left with no other choice than to kill her right there in the truck. We then jump back to Molly, who is walking down a dirt road when she spots a vehicle coming up behind her. She frantically waves down this truck and runs over to the window, thinking she has finally been saved. But when she looks inside, Angela smiles at her and says, "Howdy, partner," with a big smile on her face. The camera then zooms in to Molly as she screams in horror. And that is the end of Sleepaway Camp 2, Unhappy Campers.
She should have had her dick out. She ended it like the first one. Yeah, this ending is awful. For a movie that comes from what made the first movie was an amazing, like, shock ending, this ending is like it was written by 12-year-olds.
I feel like it really it was already kind of crazy, but it really gets crazy with the whole her killing the whole camp, and then she's suddenly in a truck with some other lady, and then she kills that lady, and then she just happens to drive down the same road that Molly is like walking down. It's weird.
I feel like they were literally like, "Okay, we gotta start filming tomorrow. How are we gonna end the movie?"
Yeah, I did see that the actors that are in the third one were actually on set for the last few scenes of this one. So they were literally like, soon as they were done filming, they immediately the next day started filming the next movie.
Ah,
So got a couple quick facts. There's not a ton of facts on here, but the characters are named after actors associated with quintessential 1980s film culture, predominantly members of the Brat Pack. We have Molly Ringwald, Sean Penn, Ali Sheedy, TC was Tom Cruise, John Hughes, which was Uncle John, Mayor Winningham, who I don't know who that is, Rob Lowe, Demi Moore, Leah Thompson, Brooke Shields, Jodie Foster, and Anthony. Oh, no, I'm not even done. There's like a bunch more. Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Charlie Sheen, Phoebe Cates, Emilio Estevez, and Diane Lane.
and Bob Marley.
And Bob Marley. Yeah, I don't know why they decided to name all of the characters after famous actors. I don't know where that really came from.
Because they're such shitty writers that they
Couldn't even think of
literally
a name.
had to steal names.
So this film was shot in Waco, Georgia at a campground formerly known to locals as Camp Waco. It is now private property, and most of the buildings used in the film are now gone except the restroom, the abandoned cabin, and the swimming pool, which all still remain standing today.
Is Allie still at the pool in her white wet shirt?
Abandoned cabin outhouse?
No, I need her in that pool.
Yeah, I think she's a lot older now.
Mm.
And I don't know if that would be as good of a scene.
Would no longer be party hats at 2 o'clock. It's like tortillas at 2 o'clock.
So I think it was like, what was it? It was like one of those Eddie Murphy, where he dressed up as the whole family, and he was dressed up as the grandma, and the grandma was at the dinner table telling the story, and she's like, I got out of the shower today, and I felt this awful pain, and I looked down and realized I was stepping on my own titty. Oh, so this last one was a shocker. So
I just got to bring this up. This is like Johnny Knoxville when they dress him up as the old woman and Jackass and his titties hanging out.
Yeah. So we recently talked about Chris Jericho, who was in Terrifier 2 and 3. This is his favorite slasher, which is questionable to me. I'm like, really? This?
Well, I think it probably has a nostalgia thing to him, because how many movies from the 90s have we talked about and covered that we like way more than it deserved?
I can agree with that, and I can see it being one of his favorite or one that he just really likes, but to say that this is the gold star over everything.
Bro, you bring up Ticks every other episode.
I don't say it's my favorite monster movie, though.
Nostalgia, though.
It's not my favorite, though. I wouldn't say, like, Ticks is better than fucking anything. Like,
well, no. I tell you, it's better than Sleepaway Camp, too.
Oh, by miles. All right, so ratings and kill count. Total kills is 18 or 19, depending on if you're counting Molly. We do find out in the next movie that Molly did indeed die. So 19 if you include that. So we have Phoebe, who was hit in the head with the branch, had her tongue cut out. Jodie, who was burned to death in the fire. Brooke, who was burned in the fire. Mayor, who was killed with a power drill. Anthony had his throat cut with the Freddy glove. Judd, who was killed with the chainsaw, Allie, who was stabbed in the back and drowned in the outhouse, Demi, who was strangled with the guitar string, Leah stabbed with a knife, TC, whose face was melted from battery acid, which I don't know if that would kill him, Sean, who was decapitated with a machete, Matt, who, this is the name of the dead body she brings to the cabin, Charlie, who was one of the kids who had his throat slit, Emilio, also one of the kids, same thing, Uncle John, whose hand was chopped off and his neck was cut, Rob, who was stabbed and then hung, Diane, who was the other counselor, was stabbed, the truck driver lady who was stabbed, and then Molly, we don't know.
That is literally the entire IMDb. except one person outside of Angela herself. And I don't know why they put it in the movie, but there is a actual like teenage girl who throws a fit. She's like, I fucking hate this place.
She
I
gets
want to
away.
go home.
Yeah.
She must not have been in the Boobaway Camp. And she gets the fuck out of there. And she's the sole survivor of the movie.
Yeah.
Out of all the campers.
Yeah. And I think they were doing like art class or something. And she's like, I want to go home. And I think it was because other counselors were there. They actually called her parents that came and picked her up.
Yep. I don't know why they put that in there, but she's literally actually important. She's the only person who lives.
You think like 20 years later, she's still like PTSD from that time she went to camp and everybody she knew was murdered?
Bro, she is technically a final girl in an 80s slasher.
And we don't even know her name.
Nope. I don't even know if she has a name. No, she doesn't. As the IMDb has her as like the girl who left camp.
Blonde girl 1.
I think it's literally the girl who left.
All right. Favorite kill. I went with Judd because of the awesome Texas Chainsaw Massacre type kill. My second favorite was Anthony because he was killed with the Freddy glove. So those are my favorite kills.
So I originally had those exact same two. It was really cool set of scenes, but I changed it. So my favorite, I'm going to go with the very first one because that tongue cut, I don't know how it killed her or why it killed her.
Did it for you.
But I thought that it was more gore and practical effects than we got in the entire first movie. I thought it was a good way to start the movie. It started on a good leg. Second would have to be the Freddy glove throat slit. I thought it was kind of hilarious how blatant the thievery of the Freddy Krueger glove. And then, of course, the scene right after that with that whole scene where they both die.
Yeah, I love that scene, and I love the scene where they go into the cabin, the kind of final showdown.
Final, yeah.
Those are two awesome scenes in this movie.
And just so happens to be that's like 90% of the practical effects in this entire movie.
All right, so rating. I gave it a 2.3. I do like it as a fun camp slasher movie, hate it as a sleepaway camp movie. Like I said, I would like this movie a lot better if they didn't, even if they just stayed away from the Angela story and just moved on to another. It could still be Sleepaway Camp, but at least not completely change this character. This is not even close to similar to the version we've seen before. I don't really like it being a Sleepaway Camp movie either, but yeah, it's got some weak writing in it. It's got some weak story in it. I wish we could have seen more of the kills. I mean, have such a high kill count. We really don't have a lot of cool kills to talk about. We only have maybe, if I could, off the top of my head, maybe 4 that we really get to see very well. So yeah, I'm not giving it a super high rating.
You know, I think that they missed a huge opportunity with if you're not gonna have Felicia Rose play the part, then the obvious choice after that is to make the Sleepaway Camp 2 as
I agree.
Who is she?
I would love it much more if it was that.
If we don't know what she looks like because there's a different actress playing her, play up on the whole who done it that the original Sleepaway Camp did. Thought that would have been a completely different, potentially really good sequel. I gave this movie a 3.3. It's an 80s camp slasher, undoubtedly. Well, it's an awful movie. The writing and the plot holes are awful. The choreography, especially like during the kills and the fight scenes, were fucking awful. A lot of the kills we didn't even get to see. The coolest ones were ones that they stole from other horror franchises, so that's not even original. With that said, though, this was a 100% a perfectly bad late 80s cheap camp slasher. We get ridiculous 30-year-old teens and nudity and sex and drugs and generic 80s rock music, and a ton of people die.
And a boombox.
And I love it. I love the atmosphere and the feel of it. I thought they nailed the cheap camp slasher from the late 80s. I thought that some of the practical effects we did get were good, better than the first movie, because we didn't really get to see any of the kills in the first movie. I think, if I remember right, the only two practical effects we get are the guy who is somehow decomposing the next morning with a snake, which is completely out of place, but it was really cool. And then the guy who gets stung to death by the bees. I don't know if you remember that.
Well, there was the owner who had the arrow through his neck.
Yeah, I guess we did. So we got that too, but we got better practical effects, although we did miss a lot of the kills in this. Overall, I thought it was extremely fun. I thought it was a more fun movie than the first. I think the first is a much better movie overall, though.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I guess we will eventually do 3.
Oh, we got to.
Yeah, we'll eventually do Teenage Wasteland, which I haven't seen. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen it.
I wonder what they call it in the UK. Is it
Bad Vacation 3 or something? So, once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials, tell a friend, a family member, or the fun police about the show. And we hope to see you next time. You have any last words?
Party hats at 2 o'clock. Panty raid.